Hello, and welcome back to Storytime with Eric Zimmer. Where we left off on the Art of the Muppets, we talked about performances and, let's see, what else? Performances and fabrication. The next part we're going to discuss is the medium. So you ready? Alright, let's begin. The medium. Many aspects of the Muppets' growth and current form are directly related to their origins on television. While the video camera's unblinking eye refuses to ignore flaws in craftsmanship or performance, the video monitor allows the puppeteers to observe their own performances as they are happening and then, by virtue of tape replay, review them instantly to check for mistakes and consider other possibilities. Thus, they can compose their own pictures as they go, adjusting their characters' relative positions on the screen and their reactions to each other. To see this in performance can sometimes be a bit unsettling. Above the puppeteers' heads, and carefully framed in the television camera, one sees two Muppets responding to each other in some intimate interaction, while below them the performers may well be standing back to back, eyes focused on their respective monitors, ignoring each other completely. The emotions and responses most actors generate through playing to each other or to an audience have become curiously rechanneled so that here each actor has become his own audience. The only reality exists on the television screen, and the response to a situation is contained not in the twitch of an eyebrow, but in the cock of a hand. No matter how sophisticated the mechanics and materials, it remains that a puppet cannot do anything a live actor can do. To begin with, most hand puppets end at the midriff, thus eliminating much of an opportunity for any fancy footwork. Most of this is compensated for in performance, but adroit use of the medium can add extra dimensions to the puppetry. With electronic matting techniques, puppets can seem to be adrift in an ocean or racing down a ski slope. Superimpositions and odd angles can allow them to tumble through space or struggle up a cliff face. Effects are achieved through a variety of means, from standard studio props and sets to sophisticated computer technology. The result is that the line between what is electronic wizardry, what is animation, and what is live performance becomes wonderfully blurred, and the Muppets appear to do things puppets have never done before. The audience is convinced that it has seen things happen that could not be. Because the viewer's own imaginations are involved, they willingly fill in gaps for themselves, believing in the magic that is before them. In a way, this is what everything the Muppets do eventually comes down to. No false notes. The design, the workmanship, and the performance, and the way these are presented must all work together with a seeming case that makes everything believable. The end result must seem so simple that the viewer should never feel aware of what is really going on. Every time we use mechanics, says Jim, we try to keep them very unmechanical. As soon as the audience starts thinking about the cleverness of it all, it stops thinking about the performance. When the Muppets are on the screen, I want the audience to believe in the moment. In the late summer of 1978, this criterion faced its greatest challenge yet. The Muppets embarked on the Muppet Movie. The one that started it all, too. Would the techniques that had been developed for the intimate medium of television be stretched beyond their believable limits on the big screen? Could the foams and fabrics, fur and flocking withstand this enormous magnification? The only answer, a screen test. Happily, the methods the Muppets had mastered for the electronic medium transferred comfortably to film, and the Muppet Movie became the first major film featuring puppets. Its importance to the Muppets was twofold, however. They demonstrated to themselves that they could work in this larger medium, and the movie allowed Jim Henson quite literally to expand the Muppets universe. to bring them out of the studio and into the real world, our world, where they might, he hoped, once more awaken in us the childlike sense of innocence that slumbers in us all. Here's some scenes of them filming the Muppet Movie, the Muppet Show, and Emmett Otter. Everybody remembers that show. And look, here's something, the set of the final scene of the Muppet Movie. Look at that. Oh! The Muppets and where they come from. Impressions in various dimensions of some of the people and things behind the making of the Muppets. I didn't know these pages existed. Look. This is how the Muppets all start out, before they're put together. The magic behind it all. Pretty as a picture. Alright. Now let's talk about some of the shows they were on. Sam and Friends. Sam and Friends was the first Muppet program, appearing in 1954 as a local 5-minute-long late-night adult show that immediately preceded The Tonight Show. The puppets, built and performed by Jim and Jim Henson, included Sam, the main character, and his friends Yorick, Mushmelon, Moldy Hay, Harry, and a sort of lizardy thing named Kermit. Although animal or human characteristics might be ascribed to some of them, they were in the main simple, abstract creatures who brought a measure of weirdness to the pantomimes of popular songs and comedy sketches that were a staple of their show. "I've grown accustomed to your face," sang a blonde-wigged Kermit to a disguised Yorick, and the latter then proceeded slowly to devour his own face and then nibble exploratorily around the terrified singer's nether extremities. Yorick is described by Jim and Jane as a living hunger, a creature whose only purpose in life was to eat. The first of a series of voracious Muppet monsters, the most famous of which is probably the ultimate embodiment of infantile craving, Sesame Street's Cookie Monster. The success of Sam and Friends led to appearances on network television. The Muppets were frequent guests on the Today, Tonight, and Ed Sullivan shows, and Rolf the Dog was the resident comedian on the Jimmy Dean Show for 3 years. By this time, Don Sahlin had joined the Muppets as a builder and special effects man, and Jerry Joel and Frank Oz had joined as puppeteers. Jerry found himself writing a great deal of their material, and eventually gave up performing to become the Muppets' head writer. Here's what Sam and Friends look like. I've never even heard of them until I read this book. Aha! Sesame Street. From its first season in 1969, Sesame Street was acclaimed as one of the most innovative programs in television history. Jim Henson had worked closely with John Stone, first its head writer and later its producer, on its development, and had created several new characters for the show. Among them, the team of Ernie and Bert, Cookie Monster, lovable furry old Grover, not so lovable Oscar the Grouch, and of course, Big Bird. Again, most of the characters were abstractions, undefinable by race or even species, with one exception. A frequent guest on Sesame Street was one Kermit the Frog. Along the way, he had given in to the inevitable Muppet special production of The Frog Prince, grown flippers and a little pointy collar, and admitted to his latent froghood. The Muppet performers expanded to include Carol Spinney, Jerry Nelson, and Richard Hunt, and among the new builders as Carolee Wilcox, whose care has fallen the ongoing construction of most of the Sesame Street Muppets. These include the troupe of Anything Muppets, about 8 characters with endlessly interchangeable features and costumes, who can be readily made up to fill almost any role the scripts may call for. Interesting. And here's some behind-the-scenes look of Sesame Street. And the characters, of course. My, how they have expanded to today. Ooh, this is interesting. Saturday Night Live. The great success of Sesame Street was a mixed blessing, for while it certainly increased the Muppets' visibility, it tended to reinforce most Americans' preconception that puppets are for kids. Which is not true. Thus, many people were probably unprepared for the Muppets of Saturday Night Live, NBC's irreverent comedy show. Frank and intelligent for young urban adults. Jim, Michael Frith, and their associates created the world of Gorch, which extended from the rotting forest to the stagnant mudflat. This land was made for you and me, crooned warty King Plubis to his purple-haired Queen Puta. One of the more interesting innovations in the design of these characters was that for the first time they had real eyes, glass ones obtained from a taxidermist, instead of the cartoon eyes of all their predecessors. The resulting creatures were strange, mossy things with deep, glinty orbs. Look at this guy. Yet according to Michael Frith, pictured right here, they were also probably stupider and shallower and more preposterously dopey than any characters we have ever done with cartoon eyes. While the Saturday Night Live characters are certainly descended from a long line of monstrous Muppet things, the years of puppet building and experience behind them is apparent in the loving detail of their execution. Note the scrimshaw on Plubis's tusks and the marvelous flexibility of their faces. They certainly rank among the most expressive of all the Muppets. Here's a picture of them.